Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Honest Concepts Podcast. My name is Bronson Long. I'm accompanied as always, almost always, with my instructor, Master Autry. Sir, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, sir. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right.
Good,
it was
good.
super hot today.
Yes,
We're definitely in June time. It's getting to be summer.
Absolutely.
But, sir, it's been a crazy last couple episodes. 2 weeks ago, I couldn't make it. I was caught up driving. I do so much driving for work. And then last week, I was doing it on my own in a whole different background.
I know.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah. Felt funny being there. But guys, if you're new to the show, again, my name is Sensei Long. This is my instructor, Master Autry. Sir, I've been your student in the martial arts for a long time. We've grown together. You basically raised me up in a lot of ways, and now we've got this relationship where we can do this podcast together and get to talk with other people. And really, the show has been very helpful to me. And what's so great about it is it's not just about our walk through martial arts, so that's important, but more importantly, it's our walk through life. It's our thoughts and our experiences. And every week, we change sides on who comes up with a topic.
We do.
I'll come up with one week, and you come up with one another. And this week it's your turn.
My turn. Well, I came up with something called Heartfelt Conversation.
Yes, sir.
Before we get into that, I want to tell somebody why I wasn't here last week. I had a little incident going on in my life. We talk about things that you have to handle. I was in the hospital for 7 days and just got out 2 days ago. My throat's real sore from the tubes and stuff. I'm going to be fine. Everything's good. But, you know, when I was in the hospital, actually they moved me to 2 different hospitals, had some surgery. I talked to a lot of nurses, some doctors, a lot of nurses. People come in and take blood and stuff. And I try to talk to every one of them. I don't care if it's 3 o'clock in the morning, just to find out a little bit about them. You know, heartfelt conversation, you can have that with anybody. I mean, you have it with your wife or your daughters or friends at work or your buddies. But to have one with a total stranger, all it really means to me is that you have a connection, that you made a connection. And that's what I tried to do when I was in the hospital. And these people see people that are sick. I mean, I was sick. But anyway, I was never unhappy. Hey, how you doing? I tried to greet them. And next thing I know, they were bringing me stuff in, you know, bringing me coffee or whatever I wanted. But the thing is, they deal with something all the time. And I told somebody a long time ago, I did a seminar quite a few years ago, that heartfelt conversation, what it really does, it shapes your life. I really feel that with all my heart. It shapes your life, what kind of life you have, what kind of person you are. I'm going to give a shout out real quick to the last hospital I was in, the last one. There was a young man there. I don't know his age. I'm guessing 32. Ms. Autry, good guess, 32. His name was Michael. Mm-hmm. We had quite a few good conversations. You know, he wasn't a martial artist, and I wasn't a nurse, but we just talked, and we made a connection, and it was more relaxed. You know, I'm not going to be his buddy, I'm not going to be his friend, and I'm not going to go to his house, we'll go out to dinner. Well, I'll always remember talking to him. Right. He was just that kind of person. And, you know, sometimes we don't stop in life to do that. I don't know, it just, the best way to put it is, we don't open our eyes properly. Sometimes I feel like, yes, humans, and I'm the world's worst. I see somebody, I don't really open my eyes and look at them. I see what I want to see. He walks kind of funny. He thinks he's cool. She thinks she's hot or whatever. You talk to him, you're like, man, I was wrong. So that's where I came from, this heartfelt conversation.
Wow. That's incredible. Yes, sir. I think the biggest takeaway at least for me, that you said just now was that a heartfelt conversation with a stranger is a sign of a connection.
It is.
Something happened there. It's so funny. You know, people that you know good and well, it's easy to have serious conversations with them.
Right.
Really, it is.
They know you personal, too.
They know you personal.
That's what it is.
Right. And then I know some people who, you know, I've never had the experience myself, but I've heard many people say that what makes so easier to speak to a therapist is because the therapist is like a stranger. You know, they don't know your ins and outs, and you can just tell them things. And then somewhere in between is where it gets hard to speak to people, like a coworker, somebody that you kind of know personally, but you don't know personally, and having a heartfelt conversation just seems kind of weird.
You don't really want them to know your personal stuff.
Exactly.
A lot of times.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yes, exactly. But those heartfelt conversations, to me, those are really good reminders of that everyone is a human, that we're all in the same boat together. We may be walking this thing out a little bit differently. We may be coming from different places, looking at things from different perspectives. But at the end of the day, it seems to me at least, is that most of us are just trying to figure this thing out. We're just trying to get through it. Some of us are living it one day at a time. Some of us are living 1 hour at a time, just trying to figure this thing out. But when you can have a serious, honest conversation with somebody, and truly, I feel very blessed because I get to do that every single Tuesday with you guys. Get to have these fun conversations where you get to really lay your heart out on the table and just tell how you see it, your thoughts and your experiences. That's the way this show works. When you have those, it's kind of rejuvenating. It kind of feels like you're giving your spirit a bath. It's, you know what I mean? Actually, I don't know how else to say it, but that's just kind of how it feels. It's very, very good. Very good. I see Mr. Pool Mike in the chat. He says, "Who's on board tonight?" Pool Mike is here. Miss Jenny Easter says present. Hey, guys, thanks so much for coming by. We always do appreciate your attendance. And I myself wanted to say thank you in particular because last week I had to do the show by myself, and that was harder than I thought it was going to be. It really was. Yes. You guys helped me get through that. So I appreciate that. That was very, very helpful.
Talking about a heartfelt conversation, had just a story, guys. I've been doing this 50 years. A gentleman came into my school one day. I was in Matthews. He drove up in a big old black Mercedes, big old three-piece suit, the Rolex watch and the whole thing, the Wall Street Journal. And he brought his little son in there to do a couple private lessons. Did I ever tell you this story?
Yes, sir.
His little son was, let's say, a little bit of heavy set. You could tell he hadn't done too many sports. But I had him out on the floor, and every time I showed him a technique or let him hit a pad or something, I'd say, "Good job." Usually parents will look, but he did. He just kept looking at that Wall Street Journal. And after about 10 minutes, I'm thinking, why won't you watch your kid? So anyway, had he not said this to me in the beginning, I would have expected something else. When he first came in, he said, "Do you do private lessons?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Can you do them Tuesday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Okay, let's book a couple." I said, "Well, let me tell you a little bit about myself and about the school." He put his hand right in front of my face. He said, "I could care less."
Wow.
He said, "I'm here for convenience only." I'm like, wow, that's what I said.
That's crazy.
Oh, wow. But then the little boy was just starving. He got on the floor for his dad's, appreciation. But those kind of people, you can't have a conversation with. I tried it 2 or 3 times, but I could never have a conversation. He'd fold that paper up and get in the car, give me whatever it was, walk out the door. Right. See you next week. And this went on for probably 2 months.
Wow.
I never had a conversation with him. Don't know if I really wanted to, be honest, But that stuff like that's sad. And even to this day, I feel like, where that kid is, what's he doing? Those things weigh on your mind too, especially when you get older,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, they sure do. Having heartfelt conversations with students is always a treat. It doesn't happen often. Right. Really, it doesn't. I mean, especially, you know this better than anyone, when you have a school, let's say, like a school you've had where you have 60 adult students in there. Let's say if your class is an hour, yours were an hour and a half, but just for argument's sake, if your class is an hour and you got 60 students, if you want to get to everybody, each one of them gets 60 seconds.
Exactly.
And you have to get to everybody. If you get to 5, you got to get to 55 more. Right. You got to be fair. So you got 60 students, each one get a minute. It's hard to have a heartfelt conversation that way. Which is something, honestly, I think you did a great job with, is you could get so much said in 60 seconds. You have a real talent for that, but and a desire to really do it. But there have been just a handful of times in my life as an instructor where I could have an actual, real, heartfelt conversation with a student.
Is it before class or after class?
After. Always after. Always after.
That's what I was going to say. It's always after class.
Yeah, people come in, they've got grocery list on their mind, they've got, They were listening to the radio, World War III's popping off. They got other things on their brain, you know. But by the end of class, it's, you know, everything's kind of calmed down. They're more relaxed, and, you know, you can kind of see it. I don't know. It's never really forced.
Right.
You know, it's funny how that works. Is sometimes you can see it in a student, for more or less, you know, lack of a better term, they kind of linger. And you can tell, okay, this person obviously has something, they want to say something to me. They're just waiting for people to leave. They're sort of lingering around and waiting to have a conversation with you. And those conversations, in my experience, could be anything. It can be, hey, I'm not going to make it next week, or whatever, you know. Sorry, I'm late for payment, or whatever it might be. But the other ones, the real heartfelt conversations, come up in just the most odd scenarios. You can't formulate it. You know, you can't script it. It just sort of happens. But when it does happen, I have one in particular. I'll spare all the major details of it, but the student told me some things about their personal life and said, I never expected it from this guy. Really, I didn't. Very cut and dry. You know what I mean? It's almost like he was made out of stone. He was just a very cut and dry person.
But it was on his chest. He wanted to get it off and tell you about it.
Absolutely. I was so glad that he did.
Yeah,
really.
That's because he has respect for the instructor.
Yes, sir.
That's what it is.
Yes, sir. I was so glad that he did. It just feels good, you know, because you get to a point where you feel okay about teaching some techniques.
Right.
You know, I've taught the same technique to hundreds of white belts. I feel pretty confident I can teach this to 101 white belts. Right. You know, I think I can do this again. Sure. But it feels good to know every once in a while you've done more than just teach a technique. You've made a difference. And, you know, the student came up and he said something pretty profound to me. And he told me some things going on in their background, what was going on in his life, and said, you know, this martial art thing is really creating like a community for me. I didn't have a whole lot of friends. I didn't have a whole lot of people around, et cetera, et cetera. I was having issues with, you know, not wanting to be here anymore and all that. And you hear those things, you have those heartfelt conversations like that. When that student walked away, as soon as I shut the door, I just fell to my knees. You know, it's one of those moments where it's just like, you know, thank you, God. Right. I just started crying. You know, it hits you hard. You're like, I'm doing the right thing. I'm actually doing what I wanted to do. You know, making and helping people.
I cannot tell you how many times everybody left the dojo. Like you said, they talk to you. You go in the office and just cry. Mm-hmm. I've done it. I bet you 100, 200 times in the 50 years. They'll tell you a story they wish you had told you. Right. Or you'll feel something. You know something's not right. It's like you get home, your wife's, you know, not acting right, or you're just a son or brother or whoever. You know something's wrong, but you don't know what it is. And you said that a lot with your students, a whole lot with your students. But I've done the same thing, just sitting there crying. Because you know, they tell you stuff, you're like, I can't fix it. Right. I want to fix it, but I can't fix it. Right. You know, the hardest thing is being there, and you know, you're supposed to be like a role model, and you're supposed to take care of them, and you can on the floor. Right. But you can't get into personal life. Exactly. You know. Yeah. That's like you're a preacher, you're a minister, you're a psychologist. You know. Yes, sir. That's what the hard part is that I feel like I can really guide you through a technique. You know what I mean? If you got problems with that, buddy, I will hold your hand. I will walk this through with you, and we will get to the finish line together. You want a judo throw on me, man? Yeah, right. I can help you out with that. That's right. You said you're having hard times at school. Right. Sorry. Yeah, it's hard to do. Really, it is. But it is special in a lot of ways that somebody would bring that up to you. It is those heartfelt conversations. It is special. And, you know, when I was in the hospital, they were just coming in all the time. There was just people kept coming in, and sometimes it was the same people. I had about 3 ladies that were starting to want to talk a little bit. Mm-hmm. We'd laugh and cut up. And then the next shift came in, and they wouldn't say a word. They'd come in, draw your blood. Have a good night. Out the door. There's nothing wrong with that. Sure. That's their job. They don't tell them they have to be nice and, you know, whatever. But you can just tell people's personality by the way they take care of you. Right. And you can. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. It's actually amazing. Mm-hmm. I think we said it on the show a couple weeks ago, but really people, whether they want to or not, wear their heart on their sleeve. Sure they do. And the more you try to hide it, the more obvious it becomes, you know. You know, we're so quick to judge people, too. I mean, I do it, you do it, everybody does it. They say they don't do it, but they do. Right. You look at somebody, you're like, yeah, this guy thinks he's cool. This little girl thinks she's pretty, like we said a little while ago. But when you start talking to them, man, you're like, golly, I was wrong about this person. You know? But anyway.
Yeah, it's actually amazing, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
So, whether they're in rags or rubies, we kind of look at them, they're the same. Miss Jenny says, I'm glad to see you guys back together. Thank you, Miss Jenny.
Thank you, Miss Jenny.
Glad to be back together. It's
Absolutely.
nice. I feel like I'm in the right environment this week. Mr. Pool Mike says, can you have a heartfelt conversation with somebody you know that is not an honest person? Do you speak to him or her on a different level?
I got an answer for that one.
Oh, please. Yeah. Batter up.
Absolutely no.
No?
No.
Really?
I've tried that, I bet you, 10 times in my life.
Really?
I'm not saying it won't happen.
Sure.
I've never been able to do it.
Wow.
I've talked to thousands and thousands of students. Somebody that's dishonest, when they start telling you something, you start asking a few questions, they'll change your story while they're telling you.
Oh, yeah.
So they're dishonest to you. If they're dishonest, what are they going to do? They're not
Okay.
going to take anything to heed that you say.
Okay.
That's how I look at it. I'm not saying it all the time.
Yeah.
But 90% of the time of it, I've had people come in, I know they don't tell the truth. They say, oh, yeah, I came from this school, and I'm black belt in this and green belt in that. I want to get a black belt at your school. I said, okay, yeah, well, good for you. And then I happen to know his instructor, where he came from. He said he was here 2 weeks.
Oh, yeah. Right.
So,
right.
yeah, I mean, that's a hard one. If somebody's not honest with themselves, they're not going to be honest with anybody else.
Wow.
That's how I look at it. I don't know how you feel about it.
No, you bring up a really good point. I think we were looking at that question from a different perspective, but I really appreciate yours because I think you're right. I think I'm kind of putting words in your mouth here, but to me, what you're saying is almost in a defensive motion. Right. This person has the potential to do harm with my words,
exactly.
So there's no sense in giving them any ammunition.
Right.
And I agree with you 100% actually. My initial take for when Pool Mike asked that question is just because that person is dishonest in their conversation and their actions doesn't mean that I have to be. Right. I can still be honest in our conversations, and I can still put my heart into my words when I'm speaking to this person. But on the same line of thought where you are, I'll be real careful which words I choose. They'll be honest, but they'll be selective.
Like we said in the beginning, you have a connection. And if you can't connect with him because he's not telling the truth, there's no connection there,
wow.
To me.
That's a good line.
You know, I mean, you and I, we talk about everything in the world.
Yes, sir.
They got people here don't really know us. We've been together for years. We've talked about everything. You're honest with me, I'm honest with you. I've never lied to you, I never will. But if somebody over here, you know,
wow.
we got to have that connection both ways.
That's a good point.
That's what makes it heartfelt.
That's a good point. If there's, you're right.
That's
kind of
my
think
opinion.
about,
I mean, there's psychologists that probably think I need to be put away.
Well, the image I get in my mind.
The last 7 days.
The image I get in my mind when you say that is it's like when you put two wires together. Mm-hmm. If the two wires work and they're connected, you get power. You know, it makes a spark. You know, you try putting those two wires together, there's no power. You can put them together all you want to. You're not going to connect. So that's actually I like that, sir. I like that a lot. Sorry, catching up with this chat here. Fine. You guys, I love seeing that you guys are hanging out with each other. Miss Jenny says, in my opinion, that would feel like it is empty words. She's talking about Pool Mike's question. In my opinion, that would feel like it's empty words, which I think you're right on that. You're speaking to someone who's being dishonest.
I tell you what, she's about as spot on as anybody.
She's smart.
She is.
Smart.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Little bit I know of her. She's to be pretty intelligent.
That's cool. I didn't realize it was Cool Mike. For some reason, I thought it was Pool. It is. It's Pool Mike. Yeah.
Yeah. Let me tell you what we call him Pool Mike. We live in the neighborhood. We've got about 150 houses. We have a really nice pool right down the street. The landscaping around is beautiful, and the swimming pool's pretty. And so he used to volunteer to come down here, and he would do the hedges, and I'd go down and water the flowers, and just to make it look nice for the community. Yeah. So we just met each other. I never knew his last name. Well, I got a couple of guys down the street named Mike. So I told Miss Autry, I said, you know, the Mike guy. She said, who? I said, you know, the guy Pool Mike. That's how I got stuck.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. So everybody calls me, all my friends here call him Pool Mike.
Really?
That's all I call him.
That's hilarious. That is so cool. Yeah, I really enjoy the questions there. And it's actually cool to see you guys hanging out in the chat and being with each other. Really, I think in a lot of ways, you know, there's certain, I was actually just kind of taking this on little sideways path here. There's some words that I think get overused these days. I don't know. I'm so tired of the word literally. I hear it all the time. And to be honest with you, I'm tired of the word absolutely. I just see it all the time. But the third word I think I'm the most tired of, I'm tired of the word community.
What you laughing at, Ms. Autry?
That's how I answered you.
Did you really?
It takes a while.
I don't remember
just
that.
Tell them absolutely.
No, you're fine. The word is a great word. I love the word, but I feel like it's used in an accelerant sometimes, you know.
Is that Ms. Autry used?
No. If I would have thought of that, Ms. Autry, I wouldn't have said a word. I absolutely would have kept my mouth shut. But
That's funny.
that's funny.
What's the third word?
Community. Yeah, everything's a community now. You know what I mean? You've got Star Wars community, the martial arts community. You've got a YouTube community.
Now, housing development is a community.
It is a community.
It's listed as a community.
Yes.
But like you said, those aren't listed legally.
Right, exactly. It's just a word I think gets thrown around very liberally now. It's just everything's got a community now, you know. And when you do something like this, it's actually kind of neat to see how it sort of comes about in its own way, where you have two people in particular, like Miss Jenny or Mr. Pool Mike, who may have never had a single interaction for their entirety on Earth. They may have passed each other in the food line one day on accident or something.
Didn't even know it.
Didn't even know it. But then you have something like this, a little podcast that gets thrown together, and now they converse with each other once a week, you know?
Connection.
Yeah, connection.
It's all about connection.
It's amazing, isn't it? It's actually really cool to see how that stuff takes place.
And I have two sisters. And, they're good sisters. They're as good as they can probably be. But anyway, it's hard to have heartfelt conversations with your family because they know everything about you.
Right.
You know, not good, bad, or indifference, but they know everything.
Right.
So but when you see somebody that they don't know you that much and you start looking at them, because it's not about me. And this gentleman I was telling about, this nurse guy, he was telling me about his cats. You know, I'm not a big cat person, you know, but I was interested in him because he was.
Yeah.
You know, he was telling me about he has a black and white cat with the tuxedo, I think he called it.
Cool,
tuxedo, cat, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I could feel his enthusiasm.
Right.
And I thought it was pretty cool. You know, then you're talking about there's another cat, and he was just talking, but I actually enjoyed it. You know, like I said, we had that connection. And it's not that I love cats, you know, 'cause I'm not a big cat person. Sorry, guys. But that's what it is. It's got to be a connection.
Right.
To me, everything's about that.
Wow. You know, I'm actually to kind of bring it back full circle, you know, going along with Paul Mike's question there, is that when you're talking with a stranger, someone who you have a high percentage of never seeing again in your life, in some ways I think it is easier to really get into some of those deeper conversations with them, have heartfelt conversations. And again, this ties back with Paul Mike here, is that, like you said, you got sisters, brothers, or parents, whatever. People have known you your whole life. There's always this, I don't know, clarity with a stranger who you know that there is almost no chance at all that they can take this heartfelt conversation and use it as ammunition against you in the future, because you never see them again. Right. So you can really just spill your guts out and really tell them the whole truth.
Sit down, kid. I got something to talk to you about.
Yeah, exactly right. And there's no bias there. They don't know too much. It's just meeting you. You know what I mean? When you're brothers and sisters and stuff, there's all sorts of crazy memories there. Well, you just stole my cookie one time, 23 years ago or whatever. There's always some type of, emotions there or whatever. But with a stranger, you just don't have that, do you?
You know, I always talk about Ms. Autry, but she's got a family. There's 7 of them. And I have to say, with her and her sisters, I've heard it, but they've had a lot of heartfelt conversations because they're all like her. They're just caring and loving people. And if you have that, that's it. But if any ego at all, I'm better than thou. Right. That's where it just makes a hard connection. It falls apart. It is, absolutely.
Yeah, it falls apart. You're exactly right. It's you have to care, Sure. Just going into a conversation with just being okay with each other.
Speaking of, how was your class Thursday? Good?
Oh, yeah. No, Thursday went really, really well. I'm trying to think of everything that we did. Friday was such a long day for me. It's hard for me to even remember because I taught on Sunday as well.
Yeah.
But, so actually I'm doing more teaching now in the past couple of weeks than I have in the last year or two. feels really good getting back into a lot more teaching now.
It
So,
does.
oh, it's so much fun. Yeah. Sometimes I get the last couple of years I've been teaching adults way more than I have kids, and so I'm so used to getting into the 3 levels of martial arts and diving deep into these techniques and breaking them down and
Right.
having fun with that. And it is fun. Actually, I really enjoy that. Then I go in over to this, I'm teaching 3-year-olds, yeah, and I'm having a blast. Actually, it's so much fun. What we're doing is it is martial arts, it is, but it's nothing like what I'm doing with these adults. We're flipping each other and doing, but it's actually so much fun. So yeah, we've got little groups there. There are 3, 4, and 5 in one group. I've got 6, 7, 8 in the other group, and then 8 and up in the next group. And it's a blast. Actually, I really, really enjoy it. And the classes are going well. Miss Jenny says, as long as you don't overuse them or use them in the wrong way, I think you are fine. Yeah. Connor says, I'm taking notes because I say all 3 of those things. Yeah, I didn't mean to.
Ms. Autry does too.
I didn't mean to throw all these stray bullets at everybody.
This is the first adjustment we're going to be getting on this. Podcast is going to be really good. But people going to enjoy it.
But I literally can't stand the absolute personality on this man. I'm leaving your community, Says, if you have a conversation with a stranger, they don't have anything to judge you with. Yeah, you're exactly right, Miss Easter. That's how it feels too. It's an empty slate. It's what's the word? A clean canvas. It's had no paint, no scratches, no damage, no history, and you're free to just put in your present emotions on there.
No history, that's what it is.
No history.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah, right. It's your present emotion, who you are in that moment.
Exactly.
Because who I am today is different than who I was 2 or 3 years ago. I think everybody feels that way. You change quite a bit.
Sure.
Ideas change or habits change, whatever. And who you are in that moment is really who you are.
Right.
If you got a blank canvas where you can just imprint that image of your current self on it without the lighting or the previous colors of who this person assumed you were, remembers you to be from 20 years ago, it just feels better. It feels like you're actually being accepted for who you are in that moment.
That's what it is.
Yeah. 'Cause I'm sure if there's people out there who, I don't know, 12, 15 years ago, if you told them what I was doing today, they wouldn't believe you. Then people just remember what they do. You've got a good point, Miss Jenny. Pool Mike says, every time someone says, my pleasure, I smell waffle fries. I can't explain. I can't explain. I think there's only one place on the planet ever somebody's used that phrase for me. It's the Chick-fil-A. That is so funny. You guys are hilarious. So we're right here on the dot. I mean, it's 7:59.
Wow.
Or is that an 8? That's an 8. 7:58. So I really enjoyed that. That was fun.
I do too. Feels good to be back together.
Actually, it really does.
Feels like home already.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Right.
Sorry for the rest, of course, guys. But no, it's been good. It's you text me a while ago if I felt like doing this, and there's no way I wouldn't do it.
Yes, sir.
This is what we do. And I always talk about anything. It's about consistency.
Yes, sir.
I don't care what it is. Just keep it going. Because once you start breaking that consistency, then things get haywire.
Yes, sir.
And good or bad or indifferent, I'm going to try to be here.
Yes, sir.
Or one of us will.
Somebody's going to be in front of a microphone talking.
Exactly.
That's exactly right. Well, sir, I do appreciate you so much for doing this with us.
Oh, yes,
It's
sir.
always a blast to be here. We had even had a Mrs. Autry cameo. She showed up for a little conversation tonight, so that was cool. Miss Jenny, Miss Connor, and Mr. Pool Mike, as always, we do appreciate your company. And any of the lurkers out there who are just letting this play while you cook dinner or hang out with your family or tuck your kids in at night, we greatly appreciate you guys as well. So, sir,
All right.
that was wonderful.
Guys, have a good night. Enjoy
We'll see
it.
you next time, guys.
All right.
Have a great night.